Welcome to Let's Talk Passion and Purpose, the podcast where we explore the journeys of creators, leaders, and visionaries who've turned their passions into purpose. Join your host, Nicole Thomas, as we dive into inspiring stories, uncover strategies for success, and help you take the next step toward a life filled with meaning. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Passion and Purpose with Nicole Thomas. I'm excited because this evening I'm here with Her Excellency, Dr. Theresa A. Moseley. Dr. Theresa Moseley is a United Nations Peace Ambassador, United States Army veteran, international motivational speaker, 21-time best-selling author, 4-time international best-selling author, a 3-time award-winning educator, and a retired educator after 28 years of service. Her Excellency Dr. Moseley has been featured in several magazines, including the cover of International Face magazine, Women of Dignity, Speakers magazine, Tap-In, Vision, and Purpose magazine, and the Black Family magazine. She's been featured in over 300 news articles worldwide. Her Excellency Dr. Moseley is the Women of Heart Global International Brand Ambassador. Dr. Moseley is a 2-time recipient of the Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award and was recognized as one of the most influential speakers at SpeakerCon. Dr. Moseley was named by Rise to Greater Speaker of the Year in Alberta, Canada, and was selected to speak at Harvard for the London Organization of Skills Development Conference. Her Excellency Dr. Moseley is the owner and chief executive officer of TAM Creating Ambassadors of Peace, LLC. Her company provides inspirational and motivational speeches to groups looking for ways to resolve conflicts in the community, schools, and other organizations wanting to create a peaceful climate and culture. She also provides professional development on transformational leadership, the essential soft skills for effective leadership, the observation process, 7 steps to equity and excellence, and becoming an ambassador of peace. She uses her life experiences to address thought-provoking questions about finding one's purpose in life and finding your authentic self, and is very overt regarding everyone taking responsibility for creating a peaceful world. Dr. Moseley has a 3-day annual virtual Passion Purpose Peace Summit to promote world peace during International Peace Week. Dr. Moseley is called the Peacemaker. Dr. Moseley, welcome to the show. So happy to have you here.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here today.
To get started, how did your journey begin and what inspired you to start this incredible work?
My journey began actually when I was 6 years old. Now, I was a curious kid. When I was 6 years old, I was sitting in my room wondering, is this what life is all about? Why am I here? I really wanted to know what my purpose was in life. And so I went to first grade. I didn't have to go to kindergarten. First grade, I saw the way my teacher led the class, and I said, I want to be a leader. I want to lead something. I just love the way she gave everybody a response opportunity, and she made us all feel special. So 12 years later, I joined the Army, and my dad was in the Army 27 years. I was familiar with the military, but I learned in basic training that I had innate leadership skills. My very first day of basic training, I was placed in a leadership role to help the ladies get together 40 wardrobes in 8 hours. And we got it done in 3.5 because I made responsibilities based upon your strengths. And I was 18 years old. I didn't know I had that in me, but I did.
It's incredible. So let me just go back because you've unpacked a lot. I heard 6 years old.
Yes.
You knew. And what's unique for me is that you saw your teacher and you didn't say in your mind, I want to be a teacher. What you said in your mind is, I want to be a leader.
Yes.
That's almost innate, right? I want to lead. And then going into the military, having the opportunity to use your leadership skills so early. So you're delegating and meeting timelines without having any structure as far as what's taught in leadership school.
Absolutely.
So it was automatically a part of who you are. That is incredible. So how did you transition from being in the military and education to becoming a United Nations Peace Ambassador and motivational speaker? Wow, what a jump. That is huge.
Well, one of the reasons I also joined the military is because I could get the GI Bill and go to college for free. And so that's exactly what I did. I stayed in 5 years. I used my GI Bill. I went to school. I got my first degree. Then I said, you know what? I need my master's degree. And finally I said, I want to work with children. So let me go ahead and get my PhD, and I want to be a school administrator. So when you're a school administrator, and plus your conventional wisdom and funded knowledge, the years in school, working in education, you build a lot of leadership skills too. Some I already had, some I learned along the way. Like transformational leadership was something that I learned, along the way. And when I actually retired from education, even before I retired, I was speaking on inner peace and world peace. And a lady heard me speaking and she said, "They call you the peacemaker?" I said, "Yes." And she says, "And your business is TDM creating ambassadors of peace?" I said, "Yes." And she says, "You need to be a United Nations peace ambassador." And she showed me her badge. And I said, "Well, what does it take?" She goes, "Well, it's highly selective. You have to be nominated. You have to go through this training for 2 days. And then once you complete the training, you'll get a badge and an ID, and you can go to Geneva to the summits that we have." And that's what I did. So that's how I became a United Nations peace ambassador. And I think the lady heard me speak twice, once in France and once in New York.
Well, I tell you, what an incredible story, just the evolution. I want to go back and so inner peace. How did you land on the theme of inner peace? Eventually world peace.
Yes.
How did that come about?
My daughter, Nadia, my middle child, was a Nobel scholar. And I heard Klaus Nobel, who I think is the great grandson or related to Alfred Nobel, spoke at her initiation ceremony. And he said, "All of you are scholars, but now I want you to go into the world and become ambassadors of peace." And this was like in 2007. And that resonated with me. Now, at that time, I was an assistant principal. And my daughter was in high school, then she graduated, went to college. But then that still stayed in my mind. But what happened is, as a high school principal, I lost 2 students to violence. That changed my trajectory. That changed everything. I said, okay, like this guy, one student could have been an NFL football player. He was brilliant. My other student was a brilliant artist. Israel, he was a Picasso in the making. So I started a campaign for no more violence. One school, one community, one county at a time. And I'm telling you, I think about these kids every day. And that was 2013 and 14 when I lost them respectively. And so when I retired, I started my business, TAM Creating Ambassadors of Peace. At first, I was just writing on peace. And then I prayed about it. I said, "God, what work can I do?" He said, "Continue to speak and write your message on peace and travel the world and deliver this message. Because I know that everybody has a light inside of them. And inside that light is a gift. And that gift is meant to be shared with the world." It's kind of like the Ikigai philosophy around purpose. If there's something that the world needs and you're good at it, then that's your mission in life. And if you love to do something every day, it's like play, and I love speaking on peace, that's your passion. But if the world needs it, you love to do it and you get paid for it, then that's your divine assignment. That's your purpose. That's where you lead to success, fulfillment, prosperity, and inner peace. And I think my father, oh my God, my father had an 8th grade education, but the wisdom of a saint, because he told me there are no glass ceilings for you. You can do anything you want to do when you put your mind to it. And then my great-grandmother, Lula Stady, who lived in a little 4-room house in Pembroke, North Carolina, told me that my gift was my voice. And one day I was going to use that to help people. She also told me I had some kind of psychic abilities, intuition, and I would also use that to help people too. And boy, was she right.
What a blessing. What I did hear is that your family poured into you and you just kept going with it. There was violence, and then you had this campaign, but you also heard from God to carry the message.
Yes.
And then there was obedience there.
Yes, absolutely. That's why I have my annual Passion, Purpose, Peace Summit in the honor of the students that I lost to violence. And can you imagine just being at home and watching the TV? And then I did this. I was at home watching TV and I saw a news flash, 2 people murdered, big day on a street. And I said, I have cousins that live on that street. And then the next picture was my cousin, someone who had prayer meeting in her house on Wednesdays, which also is another reason why I have to promote peace. People you have to love, not hate. You have to have faith, not fear. You have to find out what your gift is and live in your purpose, because if you did, you wouldn't need to steal. If you did, you wouldn't need to fight. If you did, you wouldn't have to worry about what am I going to do to create generational wealth, because it's in your gift. Oh my goodness.
Yes, that's powerful. Dr. Moseley, that's powerful. You knew early on, at the age of 6, that you were going to be a leader. So you knew your gift, you knew your purpose. What advice do you have to someone who is still trying to find their purpose, find their gift?
Yes. First, don't listen to the outside noise because everybody said, oh, you should be this, you should be this. You create your own narrative. Who are you? Think about what you love to do. Think about who are you as a person. You have to discover who you are before you go to the next step. Now, once you know who you are, what are you passionate about? Walt Disney really loved trains. So you know why there's trains going to different lands, Some else might, Barry Gordy loved music. Everybody has something that they love to do as a child. I love to sing. And remember, my grandmother said that my voice is my gift. When I was in Sinop, Turkey, I was in Turkey on an overseas assignment. I went to a girls' orphanage and they didn't speak English. They didn't speak English. I spoke very little Turkish. And I sang a medley of songs from Oliver. I'll do anything for you, dear, anything, because you mean everything to me. And I mimicked everything and they understood. And after I finished, they grabbed me by my legs and the lady was saying, oh, they're saying they love you in Turkish. That was one. Even before that, I was 14 and a Girl Scout. And we were at Fort Bragg and we were at a campground and there were lights in the parking lot that were giving us the light, not the fire. And the lights went out. And the girls were screaming. They said, tell Theresa to sing. And I sang Ben by Michael Jackson. You could hear it. One drop. And all the little brothers came, oh, it's the other one. So I thought, okay, I'm going to win a Grammy Award. Singing is my gift. Little did I know, it was my voice in speaking and writing. I went from 1 book to 24 books. I went from speaking locally and nationally to internationally. So that voice, my grandmother was right when it was in speaking and writing.
Yes, she was
so
right.
Everybody has a gift, but figure out what it is. And if you're blessed enough to have a family, a teacher, or someone to nurture your gift, when you're small, that's so important for kids to know that you were born with something special, right? And it's up to the adults and the people around us, parents and guardians and teachers, to nurture that gift.
Yes. Nurturing is important, and having family, having community to support you on that journey is critical. It's crucial. Let's delve into your creativity and purpose. Did I hear 24 books? I think it is 24 books and probably counting. What a blessing. So your work spans multiple fields: education, leadership, peace building, and motivational speaking. How does creativity play a role in everything you do, especially when you're working on conflict resolution or delivering speeches?
Absolutely. First of all, I'm a Pisces, so we're already creative. My dad was a Pisces, by the way. He played guitar, he played piano, and he could sing. So I think I'm naturally gifted from my dad's side of the family.
Mhm.
But I used creativity all the time, especially when I was an educator. Creativity, adaptability, and flexibility go hand in hand. One time, my math teacher said, we had to score the 200 and something benchmarks. But we can't do that in an hour and a half. How are we going to get this job done? I said, well, how many kids? She said, about 220. I said, I'll tell you what. Why don't I take your kids? How long do you need? She said, we need about 3 days. I said, okay. I'll take all your kids every month for 3 days in the auditorium. And those 3 days, one day you can score the benchmark. The next day you can analyze the data. And the third day you can share it with the other teams. Really? Are you going to be able to do that? I said, why not? What about I'm not going to have a behavior problem. Mindset, you think you're going to have behavior problems, you're going to have behavior problems. I said, no, I'm going to take attendance. I'm going to have the attendance sheets. I'm going to have bathroom passes. I'm going to tell them bring paper, pencil, and be ready to learn because I'm not babysitting. I'm going to teach them how to do a 5-paragraph essay. And guess what? We're going to learn about the violence in the world and what we can do to make this world a more peaceful place. So they had to write a 5-paragraph comparing and contrast violent things that happen in the world and what they can do in their community to make it more peaceful. So I'm solving 2 problems. Number one, I'm getting them to talk about what's happening in their community as it relates to violence. Number 2, I'm teaching them how to write formally a 5-paragraph essay, and they're actually scoring them themselves. So they had peer peer sharing so they can score each other's work with a rubric, and I'm showing them how to do that. And the teachers are collaborating and communicating and talking about the data. That's creativity, my friends, at its best. And guess what? When you model that creativity, then the people that you work for think of other creative ways to make things happen. So because I did that, they said, okay, we don't need this time. We figured out a way to do it ourselves. So I always use creativity, not just in, writing my books and sometimes singing, but also in problem solving. You have to. That's a soft skill, by the way. I write about it in this.
You do. You write about it. I can only imagine what's in all of your books, because the knowledge you're sharing with us, it's a lot of people aren't even aware. There's no understanding of the fact that we are all creatives.
Yes.
And you mentioned modeling creativity, because a lot of people say, I'm not creative, when we are created by a creator.
Yes.
So naturally we are creative, and then tapping into it. You know what? I have not talked about some of your works. How did your first book come into place?
You would ask. Okay. So my mother passed away in 2003. And remember I told you my great grandmother told me I had the gift of intuition. I was in Maryland. She was in Florida. But something told me I need to go see her. And I knew she was ill. She was in a nursing home. She had diabetes and renal failure. But something told me specifically when I needed to go see her. And I went to see her. And the day after I left, she passed away. So I said, thank you, God, for letting me go see my mom. But on the ride home, when I got the call that doctor said, your mother has expired. And I'm like, what? What is that supposed to mean? Then I realized that there were some things that I hadn't said to my mother that I wanted to say. And so I wrote a book called The Fourth Child, 5 Decades of Hope. I had 4 brothers. 3 are deceased. I have 1 living. And I wrote the book, The Fourth Child, because I am the 4th child. I'm not the baby. I'm the only girl. And in that book, it was so difficult. It took me 7 years to write. It was so hard to write because and then I had to write it in the second person. I didn't use my name. I called myself Dominique because it was so hard to write. And in that book, I wrote a lot of letters to people that supported me along the way. I wrote a lot of letters to my mother, some things that I hadn't shared with her that I wanted to share with her. And then after I wrote the book, and I finished it on the night that President Barack Obama was elected president, and the book has exactly 44 chapters, and 44 is my favorite number. Hey, Aaron was 44. And so I finished that book the night of the election, and then it was like cathartic. And then I realized, wow, writing is cathartic, and I also felt satisfied because people thought that they knew who I was, but they didn't really know who I was. But when they read this book, they would know, okay, this is, because I was the only girl, so I never had to do anything for myself. Everything was done for me. I was a prima donna. I was a little princess. I wasn't the leader that I was in the military. I didn't use my leadership skills until after I left my home at 18, right? And so I said, I'm glad I have a book that people can read and they will know who I am, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was a heartfelt book. The 4th child. I need to do a part 2 because that was 5 decades of hope. Now it's 6 decades. I'm going to be 67 on February 27th. And
Amazing.
And so I need to do a part 2.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. You have to let us know when part 2 is released. 2, from your first book until now, your 24th book, what have you learned about yourself, about craft in the process of writing?
I learned that everybody actually can write. Everybody has a story that needs to be told. Whether you write the book or say it out loud in a speech, everybody has a story. A lot of my works are anthologies. And when I write an anthology, like, for example, Passion, Purpose, Peace, I had about 20 people who've been through some things, pathways, some trials and tribulations. So I know how to bring together a group of people to tell their story to help other people. Because here's what I've learned. When you live life and you go through some things, because we'll talk about it later, but I have had some challenges, there's lessons learned. And when you take those lessons learned and put them into action, then that negative experience is no longer negative, it's positive. So I'm really skillful in getting people together to write their stories, tell their truths, and lessons learned to help other people. I recently wrote Creating Ambassadors of Peace after my students died. And this book literally has 16 steps to become an ambassador of peace. Communicate, don't retaliate. Attack the problem, not the person. Protest peacefully. Love your community and serve them well. Cultivate peace by caring. A lot of times children don't hear this at home. They don't hear it at school. So you have to pick up something to say, hey, what can I do to better myself? So this is actually a journal. And then each chapter has quotes by famous people about peace. Gerald Japolsky, inner peace can be reached only when we practice forgiveness. Forgiveness is letting go of the past and is therefore means correcting our misperceptions. Even the quotes that I use, I specifically look for specific quotes that align with each chapter. So I've learned that everybody has a story. The stories need to be shared with the world. I learned that my message is needed. Oh my goodness. People need to hear that you can live by faith. You can be anything that you want to be. And everybody has some goodness inside of them. Everybody has that light. And most important, everybody has that gift and no one can take that away from you. You're born with it. Don't get fooled. Don't let somebody create a false narrative around what you can or cannot do, right? My daddy told me, my father said to me, anything you want to do, baby girl, you can do it. Mm-hmm.
Powerful. And those false narratives can derail you from your purpose. That's powerful. You're a prolific writer. How do you keep going and keep writing in the midst of the body of work that you've been called to do?
Mindfulness. I pick every day to take in a quiet place with my pillow and I sit and I just meditate. And I have also crystals around me. Crystals can clear negative energy. So when you clear negative energy in your home, at your work, which I work for myself now, it opens up the door. It opens up the light for creative things to come in. And so, for example, this next book I'm working on, The Peace Within, the school, the community, that summit is in September, but I'm working on that book now. And so when I meditate, when I sit in a quiet place and think, okay, now what do I need to write about this time? Because every book is different. My stories aren't the same. I talk about a little bit of this and a little bit of that in each book, and each book has a purpose. So my theme of the conference this year is Peace Within. And so I'm going to have speakers talk about how do you have peace in school? How do you have peace at home? How do you have peace in the community? So mindfulness, just taking some quiet time and listening to your thoughts. And what you do, people don't understand this, but when you go to sleep, it's important that you go to sleep in a relaxed state. Like you have to manifest what you want. You don't need to go to sleep angry. You don't need to go to sleep. Somebody said, don't ever go to sleep angry with the spouse. No, don't. Get into a peaceful state because when you sleep, you can manifest anything that you want.
I want to talk about some of the challenges. So mindfulness is key. And I know a lot of people, before we jump into challenges, have difficulty just balancing life with balancing trying to survive and also walk in purpose. And it sounds like mindfulness is helpful. Do you have any other tips, any other advice, including sleeping with a peaceful mind and manifestation?
Organization. You have to be organized and you have to write specific personal short-term goals, long-term goals, professional short-term goals, long-term goals. Find someone with a like mind that wants to do what you do so you can have a partner, a mentor or something. The next thing, after you have your short-term goal and your long-term goal, write down strategies to get there with real timelines. Don't put down something that you say you're going to do it in 1 week, but you need 8 months to do it, right? And so write the specific goal with the amount of time. I read this book called The 12-Week Year. That really helped me a lot. I get a lot of work done in 12 weeks that most people get done in a year because I use his framework in writing the short-term goals, the long-term goals, and then the strategies and activities. Now, my day is Sunday evening. Sunday evening, I go back to my chart, and normally it's on my iPad or my phone. Okay, I'm supposed to do this, like finish chapter 2. Did I finish chapter 2? Yes, that's a check. I'm supposed to finish chapter 9 by 6:05. No, why didn't I? Because I was sick. I was in the bed, Figure out, okay, why didn't I get this done? And then you make adjustments. As long as you have continued checks and balances and goals, if you don't write it, it's not going to happen. You have to know what you want to do. Write it down, follow the steps, and make it happen. Stay organized. Somebody said, my daughter knows this. I used to have like 15 books. Now I have 4 in terms of organization. I have a personal book with my travel and everything. Then I have my book for my Patrick Purpose Peace Summit. Then I have a book for my business. I'm talking about, where you put documents and stuff. Then I have a book for my taxes. I have 4 working books now. I went down from 15 to 4. But I stay organized. Somebody said, Theresa, you're retired, but you're busier now than ever. I am busier now than I was when I was working, but because I stay organized, I can write 24 books. I can fly to Paris in India and Mexico and deliver these speeches. I can do those things. So organization is key, and write down those goals.
It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. So I am going to delve into some of the challenges you face, because your work in peace and leadership must come with its own set of challenges. Can you share a time when you faced a major obstacle in your journey and how you overcame while staying aligned with your purpose?
Absolutely. So I've been a military, either dependent or veteran, all of my life, right? When I got out of the military, I really didn't have a plan. I mean, I knew I wanted to go to college, but I didn't have an immediate plan. And so I did the roommate thing. I moved to Southern California, got a roommate. I was going to a travel school, and my father got sick, and I went to see him in North Carolina. When I came back, my roommate had moved, and I had no place to go. It's a true story. I rode a city bus all day long. I had a suitcase and $50. And so I ended up at Leisure World, and the bus driver said, "Where are you going?" I said, "Leisure World." He said, "Why?" And I looked at myself, all these old people with canes and stuff. And I got back off the bus, and I'm like, this is not an amusement park. I thought the blows. I think it's like Disneyland. No. Anyway, he drove me back to this mall. And he said, "Young lady, I don't know what you're going through." Because he probably thought I was like 16. But when I think I was 22 or 23 at the time. But I looked 16 when I was 22. And so he said, "I don't know what you're going through, but if you need some help, just let somebody know." So I always feel to God. So I said, "God," "I don't know why this has happened to me. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do." I was like, "Please, God, help me get out of this situation. If anybody else is in this situation, I'll help them, And I said, "God, please tell me what to do." When I opened my eyes, I saw a church on the right-hand side, Crystal Palace Cathedral, Robert Schuler's church in California. And I saw a club. I saw the church and I saw the club. Well, I went to the club. I went to the church. I didn't go to the church. No, I saw the church, but I didn't go to the church. It was night. I went to the club. And so I was sitting, and remember now, I don't drink. I'm drinking Pepsi, and I chew the straw because I'm hungry, and I eat the ice. And I swear I had $50. Now I had 48 because I had to pay $1,000 for the bus back and forth. It's like 1981, right? And so someone saw me and said, "Come here." And I went outside, and they said, "You're in a crisis, aren't you?" And I said, "I run the city bus all day. I'm hungry and I don't know what to do." And he said, "Look, it's Reaganomics. People, are living in tent cities. We're in a recession. But I have a house around the corner, apartment." I said, "Listen," I stopped crying. I said, "I'm not going to stay with some stranger." "No, here's my business card. You can call anybody and tell them, that you're with me." By then they didn't have cell phones. We had dial phones. And so I think I called one of my friends and said, "This is my situation. I'm going to stay with this person." And I stayed 3 days, and I prayed those 3 days, figured. So I didn't have a place to stay. I didn't have a job. I was hungry. I re-enlisted. But when I re-enlisted, yes. But when I re-enlisted this time, when I got out, I had a plan. I had a blueprint. I'm going to get my place in advance. I'm going to college. I'm going to get a job. something easy like waiting tables or bartenders, because when you're in college, you don't need a stressful job. I'm going to make this happen. And that was a lesson learned. First of all, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. So whatever the problem is, there is a solution. I figured it out in 3 days, right? And I often sometimes wondered, the person that helped me, I just kind of left and I didn't leave a note. And I'm wondering if, do they know that I'm okay? So when I wrote the fourth child that funded It's a Hope, I wrote that person a letter to let them know that I went from homeless to owning 2 homes. I went from having a high school diploma to having 3 degrees. I went from having no money to making over 6 figures. You know what I mean? So I turned out okay, right? And
Absolutely.
so prayer got me through that, but also I learned that I needed to be independent. I'm the most independent person you will ever meet. And I kept my promise to God. I had someone that needed a place to stay, and I provided the place to stay for them rent. So that was a challenge.
Yeah. I can imagine.
We're getting a city, but that's a made-for-TV movie.
And you know what?
It's another podcast.
I love it. I love it. Thank you for sharing, just sharing your story. And what advice do you have for those who are struggling with independence, right? They're so worried about stepping out, that doubt creeps in.
Know that you have it within you to do whatever you need to do to take care of yourself. And it all starts with knowing who you are, knowing what your gift is, knowing what you're passionate about, and aligning that with your purpose. And if you can't do it by yourself, then you need to find someone to help you. Get a coach, get a mentor. Now, you might need some other help first, because coaches aren't psychologists. You might have to deal with some childhood trauma first or whatever it is, because a lot of times we're stuck because of some trauma that happened in the past, right? Fix that first and then get someone, a coach that can guide you, in the right directions. We're not going to do the work for you, but we can ask you some open-ended questions. We can help you, develop that blueprint once you discover what it is that you really meant to be. And I don't want somebody, just tell me what I need to do. No, you really have to discover that on your own. But if you're still worried about what happened to you when you were 5, you're going to struggle with that, right? I'm going to tell you something. I didn't get a driver's license. I didn't get a car. I got a driver's license when I was 18 in the Army. But I didn't buy my first car until I was 32. Because somebody told me I couldn't drive. And I believed them, right? So here I am buying groceries, taking the taxi, taking the city bus, okay, so my brother said to me, my big brother said, Reese, you can drive. Let me take you to go get your, because I had a military license. Let me go take you to get your license. And Andre, he took me to get my license, and then I got a car. I'm like, I can drive. So when someone tells you something, like I say, don't listen to the false narratives. When someone says something that you can or cannot, just don't believe them. Look inside yourself to say, that's another challenge too. I was listening to other people instead of listening to myself, right? Yeah.
That's true. Listening to other people, right? Oh, and creating that narrative.
Yes.
How it interrupts your mindset and then stunts your growth.
Yeah.
I want to make sure I go back to your work as a peace ambassador.
Yes.
And you've established, is it TAM, Creating Ambassadors of Peace, LLC?
Yes.
Can you tell us more about your work in promoting peace? I know you touched on it before, but how do you continue to inspire others to take responsibility for creating a peaceful world?
So my business, I actually have professional development that I can give schools or organizations to how to have a positive climate and culture, right? And I use transformational leadership, individual consideration, inspirational motivation, idealized influence, to show leaders on how they need to lead their organization so they can have peace within their organization. When you have peace within your organization, people feel good about coming to work. When they go home, they're not angry. They're not going to mess with the kids or beat up the wife. They're going to feel good about what happened during the day. They're going to be okay in the grocery store. Well, a lot of things that happen at work trigger into home, then triggers into school. So that's one thing that I did. Other thing I do is I just offer motivational speaking. And I tell my story, but my signature story is amazing. And people can, some can relate to it, some, learn from it. So I tell my signature story and I talk about how I lost my students and I talk about living in my purpose and how it's not about me. It's about my gift is not about me. It's about sharing it with the world. It's about making a difference in the world, because I truly know that if you live in your purpose, you will be successful. You will be fulfilled. You will be prosperous and you'll have inner peace. And when that happens, there's love, not hate. There's hope, not fear. There's peace and love. And that's what the world needs, especially during this time. Yes.
So
That's what,
true, Dr. Moseley. So true. Thank
and
you
as
for
a peace,
sharing that.
as a peace ambassador, that's with the United Nations. I'm on the education committee. And so right now we're looking at third world countries that we can go in and help improve literacy in those countries. And we have an annual conference in Geneva last year. This year it's going to be in Vienna. And we have working groups, where we talk about things that are happening in the world and what we can do to make a difference. Yes.
That is amazing. I tell you, your impact, the ripple effect. You emphasize transformational leadership and soft skills in your work. In what ways do you see passion and purpose fueling great leadership? And also, can passion drive people to become more effective leaders, in your opinion?
Absolutely. Because in order to lead with grace, you have to have soft skills. And if you have soft skills, you have empathy, you have compassion, you have flexibility, adaptability. All these are soft skills. And a leader that has these skills actually leads with grace. And when you lead with grace, there's peace in your organization. Oh my God, it's interesting that, I was a leader for actually 47 years, become my military and my schooling and my work in education. But I've learned that my platform on peace actually is aligned with my role in developing leaders to be more lead with grace, be more effective leaders by using transformational leadership. So it's kind of like a formula. If you do X, Y, and Z, this can happen in your organization. But if you're leading with fear, if you're causing chaos in your organization, it's a lose-lose for everybody, right? And so, and with me, I have a positive energy. The energy around me is positive. When I had my Passion Purpose Peace Summit last year, my annual event, I had no clue on what was going to happen when I got 150 people together, but it was like one big party. The energy in there was so positive. I was like, what? The people were recording it. And actually right now on social media, one of my awardees passed away and everybody's posting the videos of the summit that she was in, dancing and having a good time, So when I go into an organization, I go in with positive energy. I go in with the spirit that, let me help you. I got this. We got this together. And people always come up to me and say, thank you. I really needed to hear that.
I love this. The synergy, the connection. And I hear the word we, the togetherness. So
Yes.
important. Well, your work has taken you to international platforms, including the United Nations and Harvard. What has it been like to share your message of peace and purpose on such a global scale?
It's been so amazing. You know why? I get to network with like minds that are global minds. I mean, I've connected with people I'm going to India to speak. I'm actually a global ambassador, peace ambassador for India in April 3rd through the 9th. So by me speaking in London, I met this lady that has this platform in India. So traveling around the world, I meet other people. I'm connecting now with a lady from Portugal who's going to partner with me with my Passion Purpose Peace Summit and make it international this year. So when I travel, not only do I deliver a message, but I talk to people and I get to know people in other countries and we, communicate and work together to try to make this world a more peaceful place. And that's what the world needs, this unity.
Yes. As you mentioned, such a time as this is now, right now, more than ever, we need unity and to remove the fear.
Yes.
So we covered a lot of ground. But I have to ask you, as someone who has already accomplished so much, and all I can say is, wow, by the way, what an inspiration. What do you hope your legacy will be? And are there any future projects or goals you're working on that are particularly exciting for you?
Well, first, my goals. Every year I have the Passion Purpose Peace Summit. And once again, this year I'm partnering with an international partner. It's going to be Passion Purpose Peace International Summit Brunch and Awards. So that's in September. I always have a book aligned with that. This year, the book is The Peace Within, the Home, the School, the Community. I have 22 authors on that with me right now. I'm speaking in London at Cambridge in March. I'm speaking in New Delhi. I'm the Global Peace Ambassador for this Global Fest in New Delhi, April 6th through 9th. I'm going early to go to the Taj Mahal. You can't go to India and not go to the Taj Mahal, right? And in Merida, Mexico at a Women Empowerment Conference. May is a month of graduations. I have my grandchildren. Some of them are graduating from college and high school.
So nice.
Where else? I'm going to take a vacation, Greek Isles again in August. But my calendar is booked up until November. So I have a lot going on. And in the future, I'm going to continue to have my annual Passion Purpose Peace Summit. I'm thinking about creating a nonprofit so that I could raise scholarship funds in the name of the children that I lost to violence. And also some outstanding educators, Sandra Pratt and Renee Henderson, another veteran, and Devetta Henderson, another awardee that I just lost. These were some phenomenal people, and I want their legacy to continue. So when you have a scholarship in the name of someone, their legacy continues. So once again, nothing is about me. It's about sharing my gift with the world and letting the people in the world know that you all can do it too. Find your gift, know your passion, and live in your purpose.
I tell you, such great advice. And I love just hearing what's next. And I'm hoping that I'll be able to attend one of your workshops, some of your programs. As I said, you're an inspiration. One of the last questions I have for you is there anything that I haven't asked that you would like to share with our audience?
Yes, I'd like to share this. Life is really but a short road to our ultimate destiny. We have to make things, we have to have compassion, and we have to learn to love before we get there. Another thing we need to do is we need to invest our time and effort in our children, because our children are really the key to world peace. When a child is born, the first thing that they learn is hope. If I cry, I hope they change me. I hope they feed me or hold me if I'm warm. If you don't meet that demand, that hope, they don't learn to trust. When a child cannot trust, they don't learn to love. The opposite of love is hate. So you have a child whose basic needs weren't met, and now they're an adult wreaking havoc in this world. I don't mean to turn this negative, but you think of all the serial killers, most of them are unattached children. So we have to embrace our children. Yes, 98% are unattached children. We have to embrace our children with love. There's 4 things they need before they go to school: the virtue of hope, will, purpose, and competence. And when we teach our children to love, there is no racism. When we teach our children to nurture, when we nurture their gift, they're not confused about what I want to major in when I go to college, because they're working on it all along, right? Invest in our children's future by loving them, supporting them, and finding out what is it they really like to do. I got to tell a quick story. I had a student that was sent to me who just got out of prison, and he didn't have his transcript. And I was like, okay, I need to do a regimen to get you in my school, sweetie. And he put his head down, and I could see he felt rejected. So I said, how are you feeling? He says, I can't tell you how I'm feeling. I said, oh. I said, let me change this up. What do you like to do? He stood up and said, I like to draw. I said, oh, you're an artist. He said, yes, ma'am. I said, paper and pencil, can you draw me what you're feeling? Yes, ma'am. He drew me a broken heart with tears in it. And I immediately knew the broken heart was his. I said, but tell your mother what all those tears are for being 6'3" and an artist, not a basketball player or football player. Not getting art supplies for his birthday or Christmas, because boys don't do art, always getting blamed for something because he was a bigger kid, and I said, I've never met a violent artist in my life. So we'll talk later about what happened to you. And it was, he should have never went to jail. But anyway, I say that to say, son, do you know that this is your gift? This is your divine assignment. This is going to create generational wealth for your family. This is going to create a legacy for you to leave. When you leave this earth, your painting will live on forever. His face lit up by the Christmas tree. It only took me 15 minutes to discover his gift, his passion, his purpose. Mom was over there just crying. I said, before you leave me, honey, you'll have an art kit. But I had to send him to the alternative school because he didn't have enough credits, to go to a comprehensive school. I say that to say, don't wait till they're 16 to start raising them. When they're born, give them what they need.
That's powerful. And I just got chills. And I just want to say how powerful that story is, because that is what is driving this particular podcast for creatives. A lot of creatives, projections of other people. Say you should be a doctor, a lawyer, or whatever. Not a creative because you're not going to make money. They ignore that part of some of our children. But by highlighting artists, highlighting the work that you're doing, just shows that you can be creative and succeed and have that inner peace and that fulfillment, and the money will come. And I'm just grateful, Dr. Moseley, for thank you for being on the show, for sharing your story, your experience. Where can we find you? Which platforms?
My website is the best place to find me. It's creatingambassadorsofpeace.com, ambassadors with an S, because on my social media website, at least all of my social media, my Facebook, my YouTube, my Instagram at the very top. I also have a bookstore. I have an apparel store. I have a media page that tells you what I'm doing next. I also have a form if people want me to speak. They can fill out the form and, contact me, off my bio. So it's kind of like one-stop shopping. You will find me at creatingambassadorsofpeace.com. I am Dr. Theresa Ann Moseley on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Speaker Hub, Linktree. Yes.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I hope you'll be back on the show again.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate this.
You're welcome.
Thank you for joining Let's Talk Passion and Purpose. I hope you're leaving inspired and ready to elevate your journey. Remember to subscribe, rate, and share if you enjoyed today's episode. Stay connected, follow your passion, live purposefully, and we'll see you next time.